Disadvantage is that some GP might feel it's a bit overwhelming, suddenly have a lot of people turning up on the doorstep want to register with them. The advantage is that the patient choice, I suppose. I personally experienced that we had a family doctor for over 20 years, but because I moved out slightly outside the catchment area, he removed me off the list without even discussions or a chat about it. So that was a bit disappointing. Otherwise, we would like to stay with that GP.
Funding, for example, needs to be dealt with, and I think that can be dealt with by recharging, but it's not for amateurs like me to produce the funding solution. Somebody like King's Health Fund or a university department experienced in health funding could actually produce the answers to that. The problem does arise, which has been highlighted very well by the first person who spoke on the platform, that how do you cover home visits?
I think the main challenge is the demand might be high to control. So having that kind of choices might be able, to sort of broaden up a lot of choices, but it's going to be difficult for the NHS professionals. The service that they're already providing is an excellent service, but as well as they want to provide it even more, and it's only the small numbers that are very in the minority providing that less satisfaction. In order to meet the expectation, it's going to be high, and I'll be prepared for that.
I think the big problem that most people in central London have is that most doctors are so pressured. They are under so much stress. And my practice has about 5,000 patients. And whenever you go there and you wait in the waiting room, there must be 20, 25 people, and children screaming and babies. And you have to wait sometimes an hour. Not that I mind, but then you get into the doctor's office, and as nice as they are, sometimes they look as if they're fainting from exhaustion. And sometimes they have to look at the clock, or they'll say, well, I've got to crack on if you have 2 or 3 problems. And I think it would be nice to be able to, even for patients to kind of audition a doctor, go from practice to practice until they find someone they like and who can give them the time.
More will be demanded of GPs. They very much provide the service that they consider their patients' needs, and if we as patients are in the driving seat demanding from them the range of services that we want, the standard of services that we want, and asking them for feedback about their performance, then I think it makes a much more challenging environment, but it could be a win-win in that they could find that they get a better informed cohort of patients, and patients get a much higher degree and quality of care.
Well, you see, from my point of view, you always could choose which GP you went to. That was never a problem, and as you can see, I'm a relatively great age, and so I never had a problem with deciding which practice I wanted to, nor from moving from one practice to another when I wasn't happy with what I was getting. I've now been at the same practice for nearly 30 years and had the same GP virtually for 25 of those years. Very happy with the arrangement. Yes, you always could choose which GP you want to go to. You should still be able to, no question, but I think it should be for preference in the area where you live.
In a situation where GPs are private contractors, get into a situation where all GPs are operating a national health service, because the whole these principles are in fact taking a situation out where patients are gathered together, in particular GPs, into a situation where there's a lot more choice, a lot more individuality, and it's going to expose much more than before the questions of religious practice that are affecting the delivery of services in some places.
I think the challenges are trust. We've got to trust that the GPs are being honest with the amounts of money on the table that they can potentially earn out of migration of people. I think we've got to have an honest policy there. I think it's about data protection and security. People will be worried about having their records put about. And I think it's the actual logistics of giving people the choice of doing it and making that happen. But I think the positives way outweigh the negatives.